Elena had always known her father was a simple man. At least that is what she believed for the first 28 years of her life. Harold Bennett lived in a modest house on the edge of a quiet town, drove an old pickup truck, wore the same worn-out jacket every winter, and spent his evenings reading paperback novels by the fireplace. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of small moments to change lives, please stay with us and watch this story till the end. If there is any mistake or shortcoming in our story, please kindly forgive us and support us with your love, patience, and encouragement. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness True Stories. And tell us in the comments where in the world you are watching from. Your support means everything to us. He never spoke about money, never flaunted anything, and never gave Elena or anyone else a single reason to suspect that beneath that humble exterior lived one of the wealthiest men in the world. Elena grew up working part-time jobs, paid her own way through college, and never once asked her father for financial help because she genuinely believed he had none to offer. She married Daniel when she was 25, a charming and ambitious man who worked in real estate and always had his eyes set on a bigger life. Their early years were happy, or at least Elena believed they were. She was 3 months pregnant when the phone call came that would shatter everything she thought she knew. Her father had collapsed at home and was rushed to the hospital. And by the time Elena arrived, Harold was barely conscious. He held her hand with trembling fingers and whispered words that left her breathless. He told her that he had spent his entire life building something in silence, that he had invested quietly for decades, and that everything, every single dollar, belonged to her. He passed away 2 hours later, and the grief that washed over Elena was so enormous that she could barely stand. She did not care about money in that moment. She only wanted her father back. Within days, however, the lawyers arrived. Documents were signed, accounts were transferred, and the truth was revealed in numbers, so staggering that Elena had to read them 3 times to believe it. Her father had been a secret trillionaire, a man whose silent investments and hidden assets had quietly grown into one of the largest private fortunes in existence. The news spread quickly, and the world that Elena knew changed. Overnight, Daniel's reaction was the first warning sign she ignored. He became suddenly warmer, more attentive, more interested in her comfort. He talked constantly about investments, properties, travel, and the future. Elena, deep in grief and exhausted from her pregnancy, told herself it was love. She told herself he was stepping up. She was wrong. 6 weeks after her father's death, Elena came home early from a doctor's appointment to find Daniel on the phone in the kitchen, speaking in a low, urgent voice. She caught only pieces of the conversation, but those pieces were enough. A name, a hotel, words that no husband should ever say to another woman. She stood in the doorway of her own kitchen, one hand resting on her growing belly, and she listened to her husband make plans with the woman he had apparently been seeing for over a year. When Daniel finally turned and saw her, the color drained from his face. He tried to explain, then to apologize, then to justify. He said the affair had started long before the inheritance. He said he had planned to end it. He said things that meant nothing because Elena had already heard everything that mattered. She asked him to leave, and he did, but not before revealing the cruelest truth of all. He told her he was choosing his mistress. He told her he was tired of pretending. He packed a bag that same evening, walked out the front door, and did not look back at his pregnant wife. Standing alone in the house her father's love had given her. The weeks that followed were the darkest of Elena's life. She cried until she had no tears left. She sat in her father's old chair and held his worn jacket against her chest and talked to him in the silence. She asked him why he had hidden so much, why he had never told her. And somehow in those quiet moments, she began to understand. Harold had wanted her to grow up knowing the value of effort, of kindness, of love that had nothing to do with money. He had protected her from wealth so she could become rich in character first, and she had. The daughter he raised was strong enough to survive a broken marriage, a sudden fortune, and a pregnancy all at once. She gave birth to a beautiful baby girl 4 months later and named her Clara, after her grandmother. She surrounded herself with people who had loved her before the world knew her name. She used her father's fortune not to build walls, but to build opportunities. Schools, shelters, and programs for women who had been abandoned just as she had been. Daniel came back once when Clara was 2 months old, asking for a second chance. Elena looked at him with calm eyes and said nothing for a long moment. Then she thanked him for leaving, because the day he walked out was the day she stopped shrinking herself to fit into a life too small for who she was always meant to be. If this story moved your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness True Stories, where every story is a reminder that kindness, strength, and love will always find their way home.